Hey, Power People. Welcome to Renewable Rides, powered by VECKTA. I'm Gareth Evans, the CEO and founder.
And I'm Dan Roberts, head of sales. In each episode, we'll uncover the latest trends, learnings, challenges, and triumphs relating to the energy transition, on-site energy, and sustainability through the experiences of our inspiring guests and team here at VECKTA.
So get ready for an exhilarating adventure into the fast-paced world of challenging limits, adapting purposefully, and empowering co-creation to accelerate the energy transition with those that are on a mission to create a more resilient, profitable, sustainable, and thriving energy future. So let's go. Welcome back, everyone, to Renewable Rides, where we explore the journeys of those who are successfully navigating the world we live in. And today I'm super excited to be joined by Dan, as you all know, our head of sales for VECKTA, and Craig Jonas, who's the CEO and founder of CoPeace. And CoPeace is an awesome company that I'm excited to actually learn a lot more about ourselves, but essentially a holding company concept. And what I love about it is it's all about proving that financial returns can be achieved while also making a really positive impact. So welcome, Craig. Super excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I agree that not only are we trying to prove that financial returns are possible, but that they're necessary for us to be able to make the changes and to have the sustained improvement that we need to see in our world pretty quickly. We don't have that much time to make things make things better.
Yeah, we love that. You know, we agree, and we always say, you know, sustainability should not come at the expense of profitability. And I love that we've got aligned missions and values there. So excited to explore that. But we always start off with hearing about what you're passionate about, either privately, personally, professionally. So we'd love to learn more about what you're passionate about.
Wow, you know, that's such a good question. And for me, I think it's taken my lifetime to kind of zigzag around to figure out what that is. I've always had kind of a push to try to, you know, ideally make the world a better place. And when this impact investing data was starting to show some potential, I thought that there's a chance to take business and make it more responsible and make the world a better place. And in the process of that, to democratize access to the equity game, because so many communities haven't had a chance to play along and improve their station in life by through the game that many of the kind of the old boys white guys network were able to be part of. So we at CoPeace think that one of our big passions is to try to change that game and allow more people to participate and be part of the growth.
That's awesome. And how did you end up here? Because I know you've had quite a unique background. So we'd love to hear, you know, where did you grow up? What did you enjoy doing? Yeah. How did you end up where you are today?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. So I lived all over the place. I lived in India for a little while growing up. My parents were very socially justice minded. And I was a pretty good athlete. So I ended up playing small college basketball, and really didn't know what I was going to do. So I said, oh, I guess I'll coach basketball, which was you know, fulfilling in some ways. When I went back I decided to go back to get my PhD to differentiate myself as a basketball coach. I started getting some kind of more international feelers about what's going on in the world. I was the first American to give basketball clinics in South Africa post-apartheid in the townships, and I just kind of thought, you know, maybe I can continue to coach. But then I got drawn into this entrepreneurial journey where a company approached me to help them grow. And I was like, strangely, you have more control in this entrepreneur thing than you do in coaching when you're relying on you know, young people. We did well. I went to the national tournament as a young coach and thought I was going to be the next, you know, superstar coach. But I really liked this entrepreneur thing, so I started being part of startup companies. So Most of them were in the sports and broadcast side. I was part of the team that brought the glowing blue puck in hockey, the yellow line in American football, the virtual strike zone in baseball, and some of these enhancements that we still see today. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So I continued that more on the sports side. But it looked good from the outside. I was the head of the U.S. delegation for what's called the World University Games. That's one of my pictures over here. But it wasn't really feeding my soul. So when I had a chance to take an exit a couple of years ago and really copy what I had been learning from my adventure with the Woodstock Capitalism and the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting, I was like, let's take this holding company approach and apply it to impact investing, assuming everybody else would be doing it too, and then realizing pretty quickly that I know why. It's hard. It's hard and it's expensive. So honestly, if I hadn't had the privilege of friends and family that had seen us succeed and some other things I was part of and gave us a little money to get started, it'd be very challenging to be where we are right now. So yeah, that was a longer ramble than I meant. But yeah, so I tell everybody I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up until I was like, 52 or 53 years old. So I'm feeling like I'm finally there now, and I've got my legacy project.
That's so good. Well, Dan's a massive basketball fan, so I'm sure he's got loads of coach-related questions.
Yeah. So I was friends with one of the famous UCLA coaches, John Wooden, who was So he was. I was hanging out with it in his apartment often. One time I was there when Bill Walton called, and special, like, he was the real deal. Special person, and quite an honor to be considered his friend.
Yeah, well, having just mentioned to Craig, I just recently became an alumni of UCLA, and so have consumed quite a bit of Wooding content. Can you share? I think it'd be interesting for the listeners who don't necessarily know John Wooden, arguably the most legendary basketball coach of all. Any particular learnings or quotes or anything that you've carried with you from him?
My favorite quote from him is it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I just really like that one. He's got so many. I mean, he's got a plethora of great quotes, but you know what? I think the biggest thing was from him, honestly, and it gives me kind of goosebumps that you asked me, is under everything else, he really cared, and love was what drove him, and he learned from I think Mother Teresa was one of his heroes and things like that. So I think the fact that it even sounds funny to say it, but he truly cared about his players, his community, his school, and it just kind of oozed out of him. It was just something that, to be in his presence, you felt that love, and I think that was that's really pretty astounding, especially in today's world. I mean, you don't feel that everywhere you go. So. Yeah, Gareth, I don't think you know too much about the Coach Wooden story, probably.
No, not a whole lot. Dan's given me a few snippets, but I'm not overly up to speed on American sports.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a lot of grief right now. I broke my wrist playing soccer, and a lot of my American friends are saying, as an Englishman, you must know that football is played with your feet, not with your hands. So I'm coming under a whole lot of abuse right now.
That's funny. One of my worst injuries ever was when I was playing soccer, and I separated my shoulder, and it still hurts. I mean, I played sports throughout my whole life, and soccer, football was one of them that got me pretty good.
Yeah, it's brutal. What are the parallels between sports and business? You're obviously very successful on the sporting side. Would love to understand, what is it that is very translatable that you can apply from coaching to building a business?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of transference. I think, being part of a team, having motivation, having goals, and being able to achieve together something that's bigger than yourself, is something that's transfers really well from sport. CoPeace, it was funny because we were like, okay, we're impact investors now. We're not in sport anymore. So we kept trying to be like a little bit, shy about that. And then it kept coming up that, well, Nelson Mandela was right. Sport has the power to change the world. So, excuse me, we've decided to embrace that a little bit more. Culturally, a lot of our team were athletes, just kind of coincidentally. And then we've actually decided to create an entire subsidiary just around impact investing in sport. And we are answering some of our, the needs that we see out there in the impact investing community through our sport lens, which I think has been very interesting. We are I don't know if I can talk too much about it yet, but we're in the process of helping some teams that are having trouble having good competition and creating friendly events in rugby, so in kind of a festival type of approach. And we've got a couple other kind of sport related events that are coming up. So not only does sport apply business wise, kind of culturally, and making yourself have a team that tries to improve their performance on a daily basis, but also in impact investing, we think sport is an important silo for us at CoPeace.
So do you want to explain a bit more about CoPeace then? And
yeah.
Some great examples of what you've done and where you're at today.
Yeah. So thank you. So CoPeace helps impactful companies grow. And we do that through a couple different ways. We do that through investing in the company. And we also do that through our service arm. So what we're seeing is we've got 9 holdings and we've got a letter of intent for our 10th. We're seeing a lot of great ideas. And we're a lot of young people, a lot of women have like passion to make the world a better place through business. And we've evaluated well over 300 so far. What we are also seeing is that a lot of those young companies need help. And instead of us, being reluctant to let everybody know that we've got no hair, gray hair, because we've been around because we want to be, cool with the young people. We're bringing in our ecosystem and helping those companies grow through our marketing, through our finance, through our management and operations, and just things that our ecosystem has done that we can bring to help those companies succeed. So we started off more on the investment side, and lately we've been doing kind of a blend of investment plus services. And in some cases, we do just the services to start. And then if the company is able to blossom a little bit through our help, we consider also an investment. We've raised about a little over 3.7 million all in so far. We've done a blend of accredited investing and crowdfunding. As we talk about, the democratization of impact investing and the equity game, access is important to us. So we have a little over 400 people on our cap table right now, which as a young company, you probably like, that's scary and cool at the same time. Yeah. But it's an important part of our story, and our crowdfunding campaign was on the WeFunder platform, and we have a lot of mission alignment with them. We're a public benefit corporation, which means that our stakeholder community is protected over just the value of our shareholder value, and we're also a fully certified B Corp, which is quite unusual in the finance world. It's not an easy road to become fully certified, and we just got our 3-year recertification, and we were able to improve our score by 20 some points. So I think our like VECKTA, I think our timing and our model is good. I'm very excited about learning more about what you're doing, because I think that you're doing the work, and I think what we're seeing sometimes in this impact investing space is that a lot of people are talking about it, like, oh yeah, we need to do this, we need to do that. And then they evaluate an opportunity and, it only hits 97 out of 100. Like, oh, too bad we can't invest in this Black woman run business that's really doing work. But, they don't hit, they're missing these three things. At CoPeace, we think we have to act. So action is something that's important. So we've got the flexibility in our holding company approach to actually move and act. So I think that's important in our space right now, because as we talked about, we don't have too much time.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, Craig, can you tell us a little bit more about your specific kind of filter or selection criteria of the head, heart, and math?
Yeah. So we came up with this model, which at first was just kind of a guide. Head, does it have is it a good business idea? Heart, does it have the impact that we can demonstrate through available tools and metrics? And then math, does it have the financial sustainability and growth that we need to make sure we have a return for CoPeace and our shareholder community? We just recently changed it to head plus heart times math, because honestly, the math is so important. Our first investor was like, okay, he was like, this is a great idea. I'm going to give you a decent sized check. You better get a whole bunch of finance people who can say no, because you're going to try to help everybody. So we've more than overachieved on that side. And we've got a strong finance team, but we're working with a group that is creating an AI tool that is taking that head plus the heart times the math and putting in some metrics into a filter, so that at least spits out, some kind of scoring. And then we get to evaluate that, and that's part of our evaluation and our filtering. And then the investment committee can kind of use that as one metric. We feel like, because now we've been writing some checks, we are getting, a lot of opportunities, a lot of deal flow coming our way, and we're not maybe looking at them like we should. So if we have this, kind of more automated first run through the head plus heart times math, then we won't maybe miss something that's obviously a good idea for us.
That's great. And for those that aren't sort of in the finance game, Craig, like, what's the biggest difference between, say, venture capital and then the holdings model? And why would a founder or someone thinking about starting a business come through your model versus going out for venture capital?
Yeah, very, very good question. So we are looking for, I think the biggest difference in us as a holding company in impact investing and a VC type of funding is that we believe that zebras fix what unicorns break. So that the VC world is looking for the 100-time return, one company that might make it, and then there's a lot of roadkill along the way that doesn't get help, that may be a good business idea, but not do the 1,000-time return. So we feel like we can help these, messy middle, single and double type companies that are solid businesses, 20% plus IRR, decent return, but maybe not become, on the path to become a unicorn. So we're looking at everything on a case by case basis, and not only do we bring in the money, but we try to bring in a little more, care and sophistication on the financial modeling, marketing, and more of a complete package. I think a lot of VCs do that as well, but I think we do it in a way that is more hand in hand with the motivations of the company.
Yeah, got it.
It makes me think back to your comment before of John Wooden and the human element. So maybe a little bit on that of some of what I heard in there was rather than just purely looking at dashboards and spreadsheets, that's obviously an important component, but you're also looking at the business, the people. Is there longevity, having a bit of a longer term view? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, great question. We are, we're long-term patient investors. I think we think that, one other thing that might be dangerous from the more typical traditional VC approach is that you're looking for a pretty quick return. We think that, some of these solid companies will take some time to do what they're trying to do. So I, I love that, the human element part of it, because I think that is a big part of how we try to evaluate. As you look at our 9 current holdings, honestly, it was a little bit easier for us at first to do things on the environmentally impactful side. And we were trying to find things that were environmentally and socially impactful. As we have been able to kind of mature as our company, we've been able to find a couple that are also socially impactful, and those are definitely not as easy to evaluate, but we think they're also, so important in what we're trying to do. We just became an investor and executive producers for a company that is creating DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion media content for short form and long form. And we just did a debut of one of our films here in Denver recently, and it's about a couple Black athletes that were very, very strong and best in the country, but not allowed to play in the Major League Baseball or the NHL. And telling some of those stories, I think, are powerful and kind of help round us off. But that's an example of something that probably wouldn't be, a VC would not have been investing in that. But we think it complements some of the other things we're doing, and it helps tell the story of enlightening communities into the history that we're facing.
And when you look at the landscape that we are in, Craig, and the challenges and opportunities that we're facing, what gets you excited about where we're heading as a society in terms of this transition or transformation?
The incredible compassion of young people. And I think that, obviously there's so much danger with having all this information coming at you all the time. And I think there's, a lot of real mental health issues because of the pressure of making the world a better place. And I think that these young people are motivated to use whatever tools they have. And business, I think, is a big part of that to save their planet. And to make things better, and you see it in the eyes of so many young people. I have a 29 and a 25-year-old, and I think part of why we started CoPeace was to have something that they could be proud of, and to say, hey, yeah, okay, my dad actually did do something about the problems facing us. But we have a lot of young people on our team, and they are, very motivated to harness the possibility of making the world a better place through business.
That's amazing.
I'm curious. So I completely agree with you as a millennial and as someone that believes that business is the most powerful force to actually and make change. You've got the younger crowd, your LPs or your investor base. How do they skew? Because that's a bit of a different audience than maybe some of your team members.
Yeah, such a different audience, and I think we've been pleasantly surprised and impressed by the diversity of our accredited investor base. And we've had quite a few people that would probably consider themselves, politically conservative or, definitely fiscally conservative. And I think what they're saying to us is, you might be onto something. I see that this oil and gas stuff that I, built my wealth on is had some costs that we weren't even calculating. So as you look at more of an inclusive, bottom line, that profit isn't as much of a profit. And I think but they do want to return. So I think they are hedging maybe a little bit by coming into the CoPeace investor family. But that audience is definitely quite a bit older, and the ones that are writing the larger checks. The people who are participating in our crowdfunding are skewing, much younger, and obviously writing much smaller checks. But I think it's nice that we have opportunities for both to play along and participate.
Do you within that? Is there any opportunity for these kind of two different groups to get together? Do you have like networking events among your investor base, or?
Yeah, we did a couple things during the pandemic where we tried to do some mixers virtually, where we had like coffees with CoPeace, and we had different kind of people, and we did have a nice diversity of participation there. I think it's a great idea. We haven't really intentionally done that. Marketing wise for our company, we've decided, these are very different audiences, so we've kind of had different messages for them. But there's probably an opportunity to learn from each other there. I like that, Dan. I think there's something there for us that we haven't really taken advantage of yet.
And in terms of the headwinds, Craig, what are the biggest barriers, do you think, to us all achieving a profitable and sustainable transition?
Yeah, such a good question. I think it's knowledge. No, I just think that there's so much education that has to come along with this that a lot of the people who did build their wealth through traditional means, it worked for them, and it takes a lot of education for people to understand that. Okay, maybe that worked for you, but look at where we are right now, and look at the world is hottest day ever. A couple days ago, it's burning. We can't breathe in some places. So I think that, there's some tangible evidence right in front of us that can help with that education. But I still think that, a lot of the wealth is tied up in people that it's worked for them. We're seeing a, huge transfer of that wealth. And as that happens, I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for us, VECKTA and CoPeace, and people like us to be part of the energy transition and the business transition in general.
Mm. So on that note, because there's the status quo of investing, and there's this new impact paradigm coming in. How are you going about educating the investors?
Yeah, our biggest argument is that it is a good business decision to care about the future of our world. So that it, as we're out there telling our story, we are not shy about the good, the strong returns that we need to have to make this sustainable. But and I guess we feel like the data is showing that we're right. Obviously it's been ebbing and flowing a little bit, but if we do calculate the entire bottom line that includes everything, then the data clearly shows that we have to transition, and we're on a pathway to make that happen. And if we don't, we're in trouble.
Yeah. I love the journey you're on. I was listening to a podcast the other day, Craig. It was an interview with Dan Carter. You mentioned rugby before, and Dan Carter's a bit of a legend, and he kind of wrote a book about his transition away from rugby to now the business world. And he talked in terms of repurpose. Everyone needs a purpose and a passion. And he had a purpose playing rugby, and then he obviously retired. And it's like, how do you repurpose? And I love this this idea of repurposing people's mindsets, their careers, their outlooks, their investment strategies, their energy strategies. It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I love the repurpose concept. That's great, Garrett. And I think we have the opportunity and the responsibility as people who have more insight into this to make sure we keep spreading it. we keep coming up with more with, meeting with some traditional investment advisors, and they're like, yeah, you can start dabbling in impact investing after you make your money through traditional investing. And we're like, no. That's not the way it's working anymore. It's all impact investing in one way or another, and it's related. But I bet that way of thinking is still so prevalent. It's probably 90% of investment advisors that still think that's the way that you can do good after you do well, but we think you obviously can do well by doing good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's different than philanthropy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it has to be. It really does. I think it has to be.
Yeah. Question for you. I mean, we've got a big transition ahead of us. There's a lot of things to solve and do. Meaning we need more talented people. Any advice for people that are looking at getting into the impact investing space? Any tips on things that have helped you transition from the sports world into impact investing?
Yeah, it's easy for me to say, but my tip is to take a chance and do it, and find VECKTA and find CoPeace and see if you can learn. We have two interns that are also helping us right now, and they're just kind of gobbling up the data that's out there and doing research, and trying to there's more educational programs obviously that are geared toward more sustainable business. Our last both last two women who joined our team finished their MBAs, and they said, that in the MBA program, they're learning much more about how this is all bringing it together. So, seeking out the education, I think there's some free resources there as well. The data is available. So, go out and learn. I mean, easy for me to say that I had the luxury to be able to take the time to do that. But, I think that, do something to become part of this community that's trying to make the transition possible.
And I love the distributed nature of what you're trying to do. I think that aligns with a lot of the trends that we're seeing right now. Is the fact that the whole centralized infrastructure model isn't representing our best interests and being able to support people to have more control over their own destiny and their own outcomes and their own align their values with what they believe in. Super important.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So VECKTA, tell me a little more about VECKTA, how VECKTA is part of this mix. I've been doing some research and I really like what you're doing.
Well, I think there's a huge amount of parallels. I think like you're trying to accomplish in terms of democratizing access to investments. We're firm believers that the centralized grid where we've all got our power for the last 100 years is no longer going to serve all our needs moving forward for the next 100 years. And why are we relying on infrastructure that is literally 100 years old? It's becoming more expensive, less reliable. It's not as clean as we all want it to be. And so a similar concept to your investment strategy. How do we distribute energy access? So let's generate it, let's store it, let's use it right where it's needed. And let's empower businesses and communities to get access to that affordable, reliable, sustainable power that has positive financial returns. And obviously the dream of the future is that we can all invest into these assets. We can all become beneficiaries of them. We can all invest in assets that are going to benefit our communities, our families, our favorite charities. But it has to start with the biggest businesses in the world, those that emit the most and those that have deep pockets to be able to go and make an impact. And so that's where we're starting. And then, the view is to come down then the long tail and make this then accessible to everyone.
Nice. I like that. And it's a better model, right? I mean, it's an improved model. I mean, we should try to learn. I mean, I guess, in impact investing or traditional investing, the transition and in the energy transition, there's so much, inertia not to make the move. But as VECKTA and CoPeace are introducing better models, people should be able to learn that. Let's learn from what we've done, make it better, and we can all benefit.
Yeah. And what we typically ask our guests from an energy perspective, if they could be any energy technology, what would they be? But because you've got such a broad focus, based on what you're seeing in the ecosystem today, like what's exciting you from a tech or a hardware or a ideas perspective?
Okay. All right. So this, I know this sounds idealistic, just like CoPeace, but so I had this vision of kind of an all-in-one little contraption that I sent to an engineer, and he was like, "Oh, if we can pull this off, it's brilliant." But I'm sure you've thought about it. Everybody's thought about it. But something that takes, wind, wave, geothermal, solar, all in one thing, and then also desalinates water because it has the extra energy, so it sits out in the ocean. There's something there that would be kind of the all-in-one thingamajig that could create clean energy and clean water that maybe VECKTA and CoPeace could work together to create. But yeah, I think it is a little bit of all the above approach where there are different solutions, and it depends where you live in the world that you can take advantage of. We have the solutions. We just have to implement them, right?
Yeah, massively agree. The technology, the capabilities, the capital, it all exists. Just how do we package it together? And they say in our world, when you've seen one microgrid, you've seen one microgrid. It's not like these can be packaged in such a way that you can do a design one, build many concept, because every business, every community has a completely different need profile, and they're in a different location with different renewable potential, and these have to be hybrid solutions. They can't be one-off, singular focus. So yeah, super interesting. Any favorite quotes that really stand out for you that you kind of live by?
I'm surrounded by some. I do like. When I go with my favorite quote, I do usually go with one of them that comes from Coach Wooden, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. But one of the ones that I also use daily is be quick, don't hurry, which is good advice for life as well as basketball. So I brought in double Coach Wooden for you, Dan, for the UCLA connection.
Love it.
That's
Love
so
it.
good. And I got the impression from the start that kind of your early days of traveling around and getting exposure to unique cultures, environments, kind of really set your journey. Any cool stories that you want to share with us as we close out that kind of are memorable or interesting?
Yeah. So, well, I think of a couple of mine. So when I was the head of the U.S. delegation, I for the World University Games, I had a couple very interesting ones. We some might be more that we can share with a beer together at some point. But I think the biggest thing, really, honestly, is that everybody's the same wherever you go, and you just the nice thing is to immerse yourself into different cultures so that you can find this common ground that we all have. I thought of a different story, but I think I'll just end with that one instead.
Oh, we're all ears. And if you could listen to anyone on our podcast, who would it be and why, and what would you ask them?
That's a great question. I really appreciate learning more from you two. I would like to ask Gandhi, where his strength came from to power through to the end with all the things that he faced. There's a lot of probably historic people that I'd like to get some of their knowledge from. Currently, who would I ask? I would ask I'd probably like to interview Barack Obama and ask him a couple things about his journey and where he got his hope from, and that I think that would be interesting. But yeah, it's cool hanging out with you two, because I like talking to people who are doing the work, right? And it keeps coming up. I'm in these impact investing, oval tables and round tables, and we always go around the room, and everybody's like, "Oh, we've got to, make sure this, and this happens before we can do anything." And my common thread is always, no, okay, yes, but and we got to we got to go. So appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of talk in the industry today, and not a whole lot of action. And how do we inspire people to act with confidence? And we're completely aligned and excited to collaborate, learn more about each other, and so just to close out, Craig, for those that are kind of have been inspired by the CoPeace story and either want to invest or are interested in being invested in, any sort of closing comments or asks of them?
Thank you for that opportunity. You can go to CoPeace.com and learn a little bit more about us. We're still learning as we go, but we've got a decent little informational site there, and we have a new crowdfunding campaign that is going to launch here momentarily. So if you go to WeFunder/CoPeace, you can participate in a crowdfunding campaign with as little as $100.
Wow.
And then we have one of our newest holdings is a impact investing accredited platform called SVX that was generated mostly out of Canada and is starting to come into the United States. And if you go to svx.us, you can go to see CoPeace and look at our accredited 506c campaign that's going on right now.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And excited to do it again in the future and hear about the progress. And have an awesome day. Appreciate your time, Craig.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate being here.
Cheers, Dan.
Have a good one. See ya.
All right.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks.
We receive a lot of questions from business leaders around the world wanting to learn more about the energy transition, what is possible, and where to start. So to help you stay informed and up to date on best practices, opportunities, risks, and success stories, we created an industry newsfeed at VECKTA.com/news with all our podcasts, blogs, and newsletter. Check it out and connect with Dan, myself, and the VECKTA team to learn more. Cheers and have a good one.